Hello everyone. I know I'm not doing a series on Magnus Carlsen now, but this game I just had to show you, I couldn't resist. I was studying some Caro-Kann positions this afternoon, and I always come back to this one to see how Magnus Carlsen handles the mainline positions. And this game is full of instructive examples on how to punish black for not abiding to the theory, because the mainline Caro-Kann is one of the openings in which it's actually pretty important to be precise even after move 10 or so, because otherwise you will get punished, and you will see in this game. And this was played in 2004. Magnus Carlsen was still an international master. It was playing the Corus Group C tournament, and this is in fact the tournament at which Magnus Carlsen won his first Grandmaster norm, and he won in clear first place, which was an amazing achievement for that time. And this is the tournament which put him on the map as a future, let's say, possible world champion. And he was at that time regarded to be especially talented and much better than the rest of the field. And so once again, the first GM norm Magnus ever got, one of his major tournament victories thus far. He was 14 at the time, perhaps still 13, I'm not sure. And one of the prettiest crushing defeats of the Caro-Kann main line, which is one of my favorite openings. So this game I usually use to prepare with black when I'm going to face somebody who plays the main line. So now e4, c6, of course the Caro-Kann. Magnus had white pieces, by the way. d4, d5, knight to c3 going into the main line. Now, of course, if you are unfamiliar with the theory, I will link the video with the in-depth variation of the mainline Caro-Kann. You can study it before watching this if you'd like. But d takes e4, knight takes e4, bishop to f5 is the main line. We have knight to g3, bishop to g6, h4, h6, knight to f3. This is all mainline theory. I'm not going to go into too much details at all. You can once again watch the video if you'd like to know more. I'm going to get to the crucial part. Now knight to d7 is played. This move is preventing knight to e5, so this is once again the most common theory. h5, gaining a tempo on the bishop. Bishop h7, now white exchanges the bishop. Bishop to d3. Bishop takes d3, queen takes d3, e6. And this is, let's say, where white gets to choose the first deviation from the main line. The main move is bishop to d2. And the other move is what Magnus played, which is slightly more aggressive, which is bishop to f4. And now usually black will provoke bishop to d2 by playing bishop to b4 check, and after bishop to d2, or I'm sorry, he would play queen to a5 check. After bishop to d2, he would play bishop to b4, and after c3, he would return both the bishop and the queen to c7 and to e7. And this would be the main line. But after bishop to f4, black doesn't have to do that. He plays knight g to f6. And this is a slight error, but nothing major. Magnus, of course, castles queenside. And in this position, black should already be careful, because there are ways for him to go wrong. He plays bishop to e7, which is okay. Now we have a knight to e4, and the most common plan you see in the Caro-Kann is for white to exchange those knights, and for black to actually get this knight to f6. So I think this is played in almost every game. Knight takes e4, queen takes e4, knight to f6, queen to e2, gaining a tempo on the queen and getting your knight from d7 to the f6 square. But after knight to e4, Magnus's opponent, I'm sorry, his opponent was Sipke Ernst. I didn't even mention that. They were rated about the same. After knight to e4, he played queen to a5, and this is definitely an error. Now, Magnus plays king to b1, simply defending the a2 pawn. Of course, he has to do that. And Ernst castles kingside. And now already the position is uncomfortable because white has too much central control, and white was given too much of a free hand at the kingside. And this pawn, which is usually overextended and a slight weakness in black's position, is actually a very great strength at the moment. So now we have knight takes f6. Now Magnus decides to exchange for a clear purpose. After knight takes, he gets to play knight to e5. And now you can already see that the moves such as f3, g4, g5 are getting to be a serious possibility. And Magnus's position is definitely more active. Now we have rook a to d8, queen to e2, c5. This is an inaccuracy, but not that big of a blunder, actually. Ernst shouldn't have opened the position this early on. He should have played queen to b6, and after queen to b6, let's say bishop to e3, knight to d5, we would get a sort of a normal game, and this would be the continuation. This is what I have analyzed. And I think the game would be slightly better for white. But after queen to e2, c5, white now has a slight edge. In fact, more than a slight edge. We have knight to g6 by Magnus Carlsen. And when I first saw this move, I couldn't see the purpose immediately. But then I actually missed one continuation which just made the variation winning, and I couldn't see it the first time I was looking at this, and I spent about 15 minutes trying to figure out why he did this, and then I realized, and then I was ashamed that I didn't see it before. So what else could he do in this position if not knight to g6? I think all the other moves are actually better for black. I think bishop to e3 could be played, just solidifying d4. I think g4 could be played, trying to be aggressive, but knight to g6 is the most forcing variation, and I think knight to g6 is in fact the only move that gives Magnus a winning advantage. Now what's the point? After knight g6, of course, black has to take. There's pretty much nothing else to do. He could play rook f to e8, but then knight takes e7, rook takes e7, dc5, and the position would be better for white. So Ernst takes f takes g6, and now the point of the sacrifice. Now queen takes e6, checking the king to h8, and now what I was missing the whole time is that rook to f7 can't be played, and it's actually so obvious why. Because if he plays rook to f7, then simply h takes g6 is winning the rook. So it's so obvious, but I kept on forgetting about this pawn, and this line is so crushing for Magnus then that his opponent should have resigned here, actually. So after f takes g6, queen takes e6, I'm sorry, king to h8, we have h takes g by Magnus Carlsen. He didn't take the bishop. Now if he takes the bishop with the queen, which you thought must have been the point of the sacrifice, which seems the most logical, queen to e7, this is in fact completely equal because of knight to d5, and this is attacking the white queen, and there's really not so many good squares for the queen to go to. And you have to remember that white did regain the piece, but the position is getting now dangerous for white, in fact, with the queen, this pawn, these rooks, and black's position is much more active. And the continuation would be bishop to d2, knight takes e7, bishop takes a5, rook takes d4, rook takes d4, c takes d4, six pawns each, bishop versus knight, and just better for black, in fact. But okay. After king to h8, Magnus of course didn't take the bishop, he took h takes g6, and this is now a proper piece sacrifice. However, the position is so winning that okay, I will show you what the best move was. I'm just too happy about this game. The best move was queen to b6, trying to exchange queens, and after queen to b6, let's say queen takes e7, now you can grab the bishop. Knight to g8 would be the best move, chasing the queen away. Queen to e4, defending the bishop. And now I think both rook takes d4 and c takes d4 are the same for black. Both are just bad. C takes d4, we have bishop to e5, pressuring g7, queen c6, queen takes c6, b takes c6, bishop takes d4, and white is simply winning. And after rook takes d4, I think rook takes d4, c takes d4 could be the best, I'm not sure. And now bishop e5, once again pressuring g7, d3, c takes d3, knight to f6, and once again you can see that white is winning. But after h takes g6, Sipke Ernst didn't find queen to b6. He played a move which allowed, I think, one of Magnus's prettiest conversions, prettiest finishes to the game, and he played knight to g8. Okay, I'm going to show you immediately. There's no point in trying to explain it before I show it to you. Of course, knight to g8 is simply defending the bishop and uncovering an attack towards white's bishop on f4. And it seems that white isn't going to get the piece back. It seems that white is going to just simply be losing. However, what Magnus managed to calculate is a forcing variation 7 moves in advance, which just wins the game. And this isn't a forced checkmate, but it's almost a forced victory. It's all moves but 2 are completely forced. And I wonder if you can guess it. It starts, I think you can. It starts with bishop takes h6. Now bishop h6, g takes h6, and now rook takes h6. Not the knight has to take, of course. There are no other moves. Knight takes, queen takes e7, threatening checkmate. Okay, so knight to f7 is the only move. Now checking with the rook would be okay, but not the best move. So gf7 first. King to g7, getting away from the incoming check by the rook from h1. Now rook to d3, and of course the e1 square is covered by the queen. The move rook to e8 isn't possible because of the f pawn. Taking the pawn isn't possible if okay, let me show you this. If black takes the pawn here, then this is a mate in 4, in fact, with rook to g3, king to h8 would be the only move, queen to h4, rook to h7, and now queen to f6. And after this, rook to g7 would be the only move and mate in 1. So this doesn't work. He can't do that. After rook to d3, Sipke Ernst tried rook to d6, and this move is supposed to be covering the check on g6. So if rook g3, rook g6. But rook g3 check is played anyway by Magnus. Remember, the queen is still covering e1. Rook to g6, and now queen e5 check. King takes f7, queen to f5 check, rook to f6, and I wonder if you can spot the mate in one move. Queen to d7, checkmate. And I just think this is one of the prettiest checkmates ever, and definitely one of Magnus's prettiest checkmates. And I think this is the first well-remembered game Magnus played. I didn't want to mention the game he played against Karpov or Kasparov when he was 11 or 12. This is, I think, the first immortal game ever played by Magnus Carlsen. And the way he handled the white pieces against the Caro-Kann is extremely instructive for anybody who plays the Caro-Kann, or for any e4 player for that matter as well. And I think you can learn a lot from this game, and you can learn how to punish minute mistakes black can make. And the Caro-Kann is a very unforgiving opening, and this game is a perfect example of that. Anyway, I hope you liked the video. I hope you enjoyed the game. Thanks very much for watching, and stay tuned for more chess. I'm doing a series on Bobby Fischer, Jose Raul Capablanca, Wesley So, and currently the French defense. I'm doing theoretical videos on the French. Thanks very much. See you soon. Bye.